that is a fallout, and Facebook continues to be taken to the woodshed again. Look at that, it's down about 6.5%. From the celebration of the IPO now to the blame game, though, CNBC's own Brian Shachtman takes a look at Facebook's wild ride.
On Friday, CEO Mark Zuckerberg rings NASDAQ's opening bell.
This is the payoff, the opening bell.
And then the world stood by for nearly 2 hours, waiting for the investing public to weigh in on the initial offering price, $38. Trading began on an up note, starting off above $42.
Apparently, NASDAQ's system was clogged.
But as NASDAQ computers choked on the volume, causing orders to go unconfirmed, the stock took an about-face, hitting $38. Underwriters such as Morgan Stanley put in buy orders to stabilize the price, helping the stock end its first day of trading barely above the offering price. Then, Monday morning, Facebook faced plants, falling 13% in the first hour. By closing bell, Facebook finishes 11% below its IPO price at $34. By Tuesday, with analysts raising more questions about revenue for the social network, the stock slides again as more investors question how much they like owning a piece of the most hyped stock of the century. Brian Shachtman, CNBC Business News.
Well, through all the twists and turns, you know who's been MIA? The CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. Well, why hasn't he come out to voice his outrage at the trading mess? Why is he not defending his company's reputation? Well, the list of questions just goes on and on. Well, here to discuss is the Professor CNBC contributor Jeffrey Sonnenfeld and the headhunter Gary Bernison, CEO of Korn, Ferry. Guys, great to have you on the show. Jeff, let me get to you first of all. I know it's early days, and I know possibly there are some legal restrictions as to what Mark Zuckerberg can say at this point, but nonetheless, shouldn't he be out there guns blazing in defense of all the angry investors?
He should have been out there on the road shows instead of his antics with the hoodie and trying to put up videos of himself to people to watch him for 20 minutes passively. He should have been out there answering questions. I mean, we have a pretty much unprecedented slew of investigations right now with apparently Justice Department or somebody asking questions about the Instagram deal, people asking questions, FTC issues about privacy, SEC issues about issues happening last week about was there selective disclosure and who got what information. What you have is a board that's enraptured with a brilliant genius. By a brilliant genius. We've seen this before, whether or not it was looking at Ann Wang of Wang or Ken Olsen of Digital or Juan Tripp of Pan Am. These are people who are every bit the same creative visionaries that we have in this case. In fact, Ed Land of Polaroid had 533 patents, but a passive board. These companies didn't survive their creative founders. In fact, the dragon slayers, by the end of their career, start to resemble the very dragons of their own enterprise.
You know, Gary, are we being a little bit too tough here on Mark? You know, I mean, it's a couple of days. Things have not gone well, granted. But if I was his general counsel, I would say, listen, sit back. If you come out and apologize proactively for something that you may not even be responsible for, you're going to almost assume culpability, which you don't want to do.
Yeah, you know, you don't communicate the facts until you know all the facts, number one. But secondly, you know, his role being a CEO, you know, leadership's really about making others believe, and then enabling that belief to become reality. And you know, they've got this great saying that they're 1% through the journey, and that's exactly right. So I don't think this is the time right now to come out.
In general, though,
I would disagree with Gary just a little. That's salesmanship, Gary, to get others to believe, and to actually have something beyond the vision. Great visionaries get blinded by their own visions. It's important now to actually show the execution, show the plan, show the new visions. We see we have declining ad revenue. We see surveys that keep telling us that this is a brand in trouble, that it has a 28% unfavorability rating in surveys of technology companies where Google and others are soaring in the same space. And this is an ABC Washington Post survey that's new. And you know, 83% of users don't want to use the advertising.
Gary?
Look, look, those are good facts to have. But as a CEO, and I am a CEO, you do need to make others believe. And he has gotten the organization, come on, almost 1 billion people around the world believe. Now he has a new constituency, and so he has to make that group believe. But as a CEO, ultimately you got to focus on a couple things: your customers and your employees, and secondly, your shareholders. And performance is the ultimate equalizer.
Well, Gary,
the next quarter results, you're right, Gary, will make a big difference. If we see some good news here, people are going to be right now following the tracks in the snow, which are not positive tracks. So some good news would help them.
Well, Gary, I wanted to ask you. Gary, I wanted to ask you. I mean, he did not come out and do an interview on IPO day like a lot of other CEOs do. Is he ready? Does he have the maturity to face the public and essentially take on the responsibility of the greater scrutiny that comes with obviously having a public company now?
Look, when the one thing about him, when you look at him, he's authentic, and great leaders, authenticity trumps charisma every day. And he's surrounded himself by talented people. Now, clearly, he's young, and what we've seen at Korn Ferry is the #1 predictor of success is learning agility. And clearly, he is going to have to learn rather quickly. But he's got to focus, and he's got to focus on the two things that matter, and that's the customers and the employees.
Michael Dell, Jeff, was 23 when he took Dell public. Steve Jobs, I believe, was 25 when Apple went public. Bill Gates was 31, a little older than Mark Zuckerberg. Do we have to focus on the age?
No, the age doesn't matter. In every one of those experiences, though, they had an epiphanal moment. There's a reason why. Michael Dell was the sharpest critic. He, unlike these other examples we're talking about, he is somebody who's constantly challenging the model that they had. He's his own harshest critic. Michael Dell has reinvented Dell perhaps 6 times now, and he hates it when people create a religion around the company or a cult around him. He's a very low-key, understated, but brilliant guy. What's critical is that with Bill Gates, we saw that obviously some of the antitrust issues led to the recognition that he too is not immortal, and the Ballmer transition was excellent.
Jeff, sorry to break in there. We're just running out of time. Jeff, Gary, thank you for your conversation. We've got a market flash now with Mr. Shackman.
We got a deal, Ariba, ARBA halted for news.